All right, y'all, let's dive in. What nobody tells you about living in Alabama. And just so y'all know, this is not just coming from us, but it's also coming from the people that we've helped as well as the locals here. So it's kind of like a double whammy. So let's talk about the summers in Alabama. As anyone can guess, it's hot in LA. This is as far south as you can get in Alabama and most of the country for that matter. But what people don't really prepare for or totally understand is how bad the heat really is. Keep in mind, it's really just that first summer that can come as a shocker to some. If you can handle it and you decide to stay, then you'll get a little bit more used to it as time goes on. But to keep it real with y'all, from May till August, sometimes even September, you can see triple digits with that heat index a good majority of the time.
But here's the thing, in the South, it's a different type of heat. It's not a dry heat, it's a lot more dense, it's muggier, and it's very humid. Thankfully, we get a lot of wind to keep us, easy breezy. So let's say it's a 95-degree day, for example. Most places 95 would feel like 95. But when you open up your weather app and you scroll down and it says feels like, it's gonna say feels like 95, or it is 95 and it feels like 105. So you can compare that to opening your oven and putting your whole face in it. And it's that kind of heat wave.
Too hot, too hot, too hot.
So you know that AC is going to be running and it's going to be all summer long, probably most of the year, to be honest with you, and it's going to be about $300 to $400 a month
during the summer months. And while you can spend all year outside because the weather allows it, a lot of people just cannot handle the heat and they're forced to stay inside to avoid that heat exhaustion. But our family, we're a little bit different. We actually enjoy being outside, and a lot of people think we're crazy for it, but maybe it's because we lived up north in Chicago and we had such long, cold winters, so we really appreciate this warm weather that we have down here.
She's not kidding. We're always outdoors, kayaking, walking the dogs, or playing sports with the kids. This heat doesn't turn us off. But even if you're coming from a state where your summers are hot and you think you're used to it, I would just be a bit more cautious, because this heat is way more intense and you can dehydrate within minutes. And just a quick little tip for you, if you're gonna park your car outside overnight, or if it's just gonna live outside for the most of the time, tint your windows, all of them, because in my experience, when it's peak summertime and you open your door, you see the mirage and of this wave of heat just come out, and it'll just pour out of your car. And I have to turn my car on and blast AC, roll all the windows down, step away from it, let it air out, and then get in my car, because it's just that bad. And that's just a little hack, in advance. So if you don't have tinted windows, I recommend definitely getting them.
But hey, we don't want to come off as negative, so the good thing is most of the year it's pretty nice. If you can survive June through August, late May through early September, then you're going to enjoy the rest of the year, which is going to be anything from the 40s in the winter time to plenty of days in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s that are just absolute perfect. Okay, y'all, next on the list is the property taxes here. Now, the property taxes are night and day from areas like Chicago, New York, Austin, and the list goes on. I would say Alabama is close to the cheapest in the country when it comes to property taxes.
A large majority of people moving to this area is because of the fact that we have such low property taxes. Imagine going from $13,000 a year to $1,000. That's exactly what happened to us, and we're saving thousands. And something we learned on our own that comes as a shock, an unexpected expense, the caveat of all caveats, drum roll please, homeowners insurance. If we were previously spending about $700 up north, and now we're spending about $3,000 to $5,000 for homeowners insurance down here. In lower Alabama, we get a lot of hurricanes and intense storms, so properties can see heavy rain damage, wind damage, and flooding, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we didn't know about the cost of homeowners insurance, and it was a very unpleasant surprise, I'll tell you that. To be honest, I was so excited about the low property taxes down here, and I was thinking, why doesn't everyone just jump on board and move here? Well, because it might not make sense with the cost of higher homeowners insurance, especially in the lower part. So it's kind of a trade-off. At the end of the day, we're still paying less overall, but if you have claims, that insurance can really hit you in the pocketbook. So just don't forget to include that expense in your budget, because we didn't, and we definitely had to make some changes in our spending, and it just came as a shock.
We're not trying to scare y'all away, we just don't want you to be blindsided. So moving right along, here's another one that is a little bit of good and a little bit of bad, depending on where you're coming from or where you're moving from, and that would be the booze laws here. The alcohol laws in Alabama. Now, to put it simply, when I lived in Chicago, I could go to any grocery store like Target or, Binny's, Walmart, whatever, and purchase liquor there, not just beer or wine. And here, it's not like that. You have to go to an actual liquor store like an ABC.
And usually there's a liquor store conveniently located right by the grocery store, which is nice, but it's still an extra trip, but it is what it is.
Now, I've also been to places where you can't even buy beer or wine at a grocery store, and you have to go strictly to a liquor store to buy beer. Thankfully, that's not the case here in Alabama, because I happen to like myself some beer, and that would be quite a pain in the you-know-what. And so yes, states are going to vary wherever you are, but I'm letting you know now that something that we've heard that is like, wait a second, I can't buy liquor at the grocery store?
Why? I'm sorry, dude.
No, you have to buy a liquor at the liquor store. And it's like, why? And the answer is, I don't know. That's just how it is.
Oh, and on Sunday, ABC Liquor is closed, so plan to buy in advance. We learned that one too.
There you go.
One day we went to the beach and there was no liquor. So moving right along, now this is gonna be one that's kind of a bad thing and might contradict what we've said about the heat here, but hear me out. So it's very well known that it really doesn't snow here in the South. Not much of anything at all. If anything, our definition of snow is actually just like sleet or frozen ice. And that's not actually what most people think of when they think of snow. But here, it's our own definition of snow. So a lot of people come down here because they get sick of shoveling snow all the time like we did. And so they think, oh, I'm gonna go to Alabama. It's never gonna snow. It's gonna be perfect weather all year round, and maybe, well, once in a blue moon, we do get snow.
It was a dusting. I want to call it snow.
And the whole city basically shuts down. The power grids aren't used to that type of cold, and it can affect businesses and schools.
And the roads will literally shut down because the cities aren't designed to deal with any snow on the roads whatsoever. And on top of that, no one has snow tires. No one knows how to drive in the snow. So that when we experienced a few dustings a few years back, I was the only driver out on the roads thinking I was gonna get something done that day.
Yeah, so we just have to break the news that every once in a while, 5, 6, 7 years, we'll actually get some snow, and if we're really unlucky, we'll get a strong hurricane wind and snow in the same year. So that's something to keep in mind that nobody's really going to talk about because it doesn't automatically come to mind. So if you never think it snows here, never say never, because it actually does, just not as often as you would think.
Now, let's move on to something a little bit more positive that we've heard from several of our clients who we helped move here, and that would be the kindness that they're not expecting. And I know what they're talking about because we're used to living that way, being polite, using manners, and just being warm people. And being in other places, you learn very quickly that to no fault of your own, culturally, it's not like that.
Yeah, where we came from, people kept to themselves for the most part. It was more of a me, myself, and I environment. They just weren't too friendly. But here, neighbors actually look like your typical neighbors that you would see in like a movie and things like that. You're getting invited to cookouts and barbecues, and give yourself an extra 10 minutes in the morning because while you're walking out to your car for work, it usually involves a friendly chat with your neighbor.
And this is speaking from our own experience. We've made really good friends with our neighbors. We moved here not knowing anybody. We didn't have a support system or a network, but our neighbors quickly became our friends who turned into family. And that's just how it is down here in the South.
Yeah, we're not kidding you. We had more than 10 welcoming gifts when we first moved in. It's unbelievable, really. We received gift baskets, gourmet cookies, and cupcakes, and spices, and wines. Like, it was just like such a friendly, warm welcome. It felt so nice.
One neighbor brought us a casserole, chicken and dumplings, and homemade cherry pie, all because we were unpacking and she knew we didn't have any food in the house yet.
Living here is like nowhere else. This is what the South is known for, and they 100% live up to that reputation.
And that's why when you drive into Alabama, the welcome sign reads "Sweet Home, Alabama." When I lived in Chicago, I was pulled aside by one of the directors at the time that I worked with, and they actually told me, you don't have to say "my pleasure" or you don't have to say "yes ma'am," "no ma'am," "yes sir," "no sir." And I said, I know that, I'm just polite. They thought I worked at Chick-fil-A or something.
Oh, and OMG, everyone loves Chick-fil-A here. I finally gave it a shot, and I'm not gonna lie, I finally get what all the hype is about. The service is unmatchable. They'll have like 30 cars in line all at one time, and they take care of everyone with a smile on their face and super sweet. And not to mention, they're so fast. You'll get through that line faster than any McDonald's I've ever been to, even when they had like 5 cars at a time. It's just a different culture down here, and I love it. And maybe it has something to do with the heat here. Everyone is just like defrosted and warm and kind-hearted, but that's just something you can expect when you're coming to Alabama, especially lower Alabama.
I like that, defrosted. Come get defrosted.
Yeah, it's like the Grinch. His fridge is frozen.
It's because it has a very cool, diverse pool of people who love to keep lower Alabama welcoming, keep it cool, and just be a fun place. So if you're coming from a state where that's not the culture, you might think, why are these people being so nice to me? It might throw you off, but if you're excited about it, it might make you really happy. Or at least that's what we've heard from the people that we've helped, and ourselves included. So here's another one I've got for you guys. Depending on your opinion, it may be a good thing or a bad thing, and that subject is cannabis.
Ganja.
Yes, the devil's lettuce.
I hate to break it to some of you, but here in the state of Alabama, cannabis is illegal. But fortunately, I'm just talking to the people who like to do it recreationally. I'm not talking about those who depend on it for either anxiety or depression, epilepsy, or other things of that nature, because Alabama did pass legalization of medical marijuana.
Because Alabama historically has been a state that leans red, it's traditionally conservative. Those type of laws that are more progressive, like decriminalizing marijuana, are just going to take a little longer than other states to legalize it, especially for recreational use. So keep that in mind if that applies to you.
And this has actually been a deal breaker for some people who've called us about moving to Alabama. Once we tell them that recreational weed isn't legal yet, they're like, okay, no, I cannot sacrifice that. I'll wait to move until it is. But I think it won't be too much longer before it is. So maybe that won't be an issue in the near future for some people.
All right, now moving on to two things on the list, and I'm going to merge into one. Something we hear a lot from people who come to Alabama is the fact that they're so surprised that it's on the Gulf Coast. The fact that we're on the water surprises so many people we talk to.
Yeah, everyone back up north says, you moved to Alabama? And why? And there's nothing in Alabama. And we always laugh or roll our eyes and say, you have no idea what you're talking about or how incredible it is where we live.
Yeah, or they associate Alabama with like Talladega or Forrest Gump. They don't realize Alabama is on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, we chose Alabama for the sole purpose of living on the coast, and it was the best decision we've ever made.
And I know I mentioned this before, but I have another story. One time we just got done showing a house to a client in the Colony in the Grand in Fairhope. Yeah, which is a very nice subdivision.
Super nice, by the way.
And we were driving slowly around just looking at houses, and a couple waved to us and stopped to us for a quick second. Then the next thing you know, they invited us into their house. We're taking a look at everything because it's a newly built home,
Yeah,
right?
they were like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, oh, we're just slow driving, just like taking it in, looking at all the new builds. And they're like, well, do you want to see our new build? And we're like, yes.
And the next thing you know, we're sitting on their porch, throwing a couple back.
Hours went by. I mean, that's just the definition of Southern hospitality down here.
So long story short, it lasted about 3 hours, and we made new friends out of it. And if you're watching Gordon's, thanks for showing us that true Southern hospitality.
Yeah, I'm telling y'all, Southern charm is a way of life.
I grew up looking over my shoulder, locking all the doors at all times. So it's just a different vibe down here if you're coming from a big city like we did.
Yeah, now Tony laughs at me with our neighbors anytime I say I need to run home because I didn't lock the house or I left the car unlocked. And speaking of cars, if you're coming down here and you're planning on living in the most southern parts of Alabama, you're going to need a car.
You'll be SOL if you don't have a car.
I mean, I guess you can get away with it if you never leave the house and you order your groceries and don't ever need to go anywhere. But I mean, that's not very realistic because we have doctor's visits and dentist appointments and errands. So yeah, like Tony said, you're gonna be SOL if you don't have a car.
I guess you can get away with it in a big city, but the greater Mobile area or Baldwin County, I don't think it's gonna work for you.
No, it's not gonna work. So, all right, moving right along, there's two more things that I'm going to bundle together. The yin and yang, life is balanced, and that would be traffic and the toll roads. So two things that no one's gonna tell you about that you might be surprised to find when you come here is those toll roads and highways.
So for starters, yes, traffic is considerably better in the state of Alabama as a whole than a lot of other states, and it has open roads, a lot of roads you can go fast on. The speed limit's around 70 miles per hour in the interstate, which is a lot better than the 55 that we were stuck with before.
Yeah, and the roads are spacious, you're not crammed, it's not like LA, it's not like Chicago, but something that is specific to lower Alabama is the fact that traffic is getting heavier. If you didn't already know, Baldwin County is the number #1 relocation hotspot in the entire state of Alabama. And we're not seeing people from just Alabama, we're seeing people from all over the country.
Our neighbor to our left is from Germany, and the ones on the right are from California. Down the street, we got a family from New York, so people are coming in from legit everywhere.
Yeah, and we're from Illinois. So the population is dramatically increasing each year. Lower Alabama itself was not prepared for this type of growth. It's not Birmingham, it's not Huntsville, it's no metropolis. It's just an older area with old roots that grew in population quicker than the city and infrastructure could keep up with.
And now that the population is increasing dramatically, like just said, Lower Alabama is having an even harder time keeping up with that growth, which means there's always construction. And when there's always construction, that means there's always traffic. It's never-ending cycle. So be prepared to start getting bad as early as maybe 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. Obviously, it'll get bad at rush hour times like everywhere else in the world.
Now that yang to the yang or the yang to the end, you'll have to tell me which one it is, because I'm not sure. But the flip side to all that is it still doesn't compare even slightly to the traffic, the big metro areas that some people are used to.
It's an absolute breeze compared to that. If you're used to driving in California's rush hour or New York, anything close to that, you're not going to complain about it. Trust me.
Now moving on to something that I always gave a lot of thought about and we love telling our clients about too, and that's about all the nature that's offered here. So we have some really beautiful state parks, gorgeous 100-year-old oak trees, wildlife that we once only saw in zoos or movies.
And again, people who are unfamiliar with Alabama are always surprised to find out we've got alligators down here in Lower Alabama.
Yeah, they're actually everywhere.
And snakes and armadillos and lizards, even black bear.
Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. All right, sorry. When you said that, that totally popped in my head.
So expect to see some different wildlife moving down here. Now, onto another subject. I'd be a fool if I didn't mention this, is the schools. Lower Alabama, and specifically Baldwin County, is known for having some of the best schools in the entire state. And there's a misconception that Alabama is a poor state with poor quality schools.
Yeah, just like everywhere else, there will be areas that are lower income and have lower performing schools, but we also have highly rated schools who perform extremely high academically, and this is something that we absolutely do not take for granted. We knew coming down here would be great for the kids, but we had no idea it was going to be this amazing. Our kids are attending the top schools in the county and state, plus it's a very wholesome environment down here. And the student culture is very positive, the teachers genuinely care for our children, and the students have a bond down here that I've never seen anywhere else. I'm telling y'all, it's the Southern charm and hospitality. You find it everywhere down here. I was blown away by how polite the kids are down here. At a young age, they're just taught respect, integrity, and that's exactly how we want our kids to be raised.
One of my favorite things was their leadership programs they offer here. I think our kids being in that program just helped them so much. It was just like little things like walking someone to the office if they didn't feel good, or showing someone around the schools who are new. It just put them in a position to be helpful and also build their confidence up, you know?
Yeah, we're reciting the morning announcements. That was one of my favorite things to see. Our daughter got to recite the announcements, and it was awesome.
And you'll find that a lot of high schools down here have absolutely gorgeous football stadiums. The high school Tony Jr. was at for baseball camp at this past week had its own baseball stadium with stadium seating, not just regular bleachers. That's crazy to me. It looked like a college stadium, and partly because we love our sports, especially Alabama football. I do love baseball though, so.
But yeah, you'll love the campuses, the size of the schools, and the overall standards these school districts keep. And you're gonna have some amazing academic programs, athletic programs, as well as artistic programs. Our daughter's high school has its own campus for the freshman class. It's actually called 9th Grade Academy, and it was implemented so that 9th graders could gradually transition into high school instead of being thrown in with upperclassmen. So they just really care about the kids so much here and take extra steps to like make everyone feel comfortable.
And our daughter's high and our daughter's high and our daughter's and our daughter and our daughter's high school football stadium has a pirate ship where it shoots cannons every time they score a touchdown.
So our point is, if you're coming to Lower Alabama and you're coming with your family, or perhaps you're going to plan to start a family, rest assured in terms of schools, they have a great selection in both public and private schools.
And if you guys aren't used to your kids saying yes sir and yes ma'am, get ready. And that being said, I know we bring a lot on the table right now if you're considering to move down here, but I know there's also a lot more. So let us know if we can help you find that perfect home.
Yeah, and this is just, our opinion and some of our experiences. So we pass it along to y'all. So hopefully it helps y'all when you're planning to make a move here to Alabama. So thank you so much for tuning into this week's video. If you have any feedback, we appreciate your comments, and we hope to see you in the next video.
See ya.